that's just a feat in general for many, many different reasons, right? You guys, you and you know, you have one other longtime original member, and I'm blanking on his name right now.
Oh, Paul
Paul, yeah,
Mazurkiewicz.
there it is. So, it's just you and him, and like maintaining that tenure is insane, but also like maintaining a band within this genre is insane. You guys have been doing this, and I don't want to say this your only full time gig, but I mean you've also been doing Cannibal Corpse full time, quote unquote, for so long too. There's like so many different feats that you guys have accomplished over the years. But the main question that I really wanted to know is like, how do you guys just keep writing, every album? Because like, you know, you're into it 40 years, some of you guys, and like, where do the ideas come from at this point?
Yeah, well, for the lyrics, it's almost like a
Right. That's
different
easy.
story
It's a little
from the
easier.
music.
Yeah.
Yeah, the lyrics to me it's a little bit harder actually
Oh, okay.
because we
All
have
right.
to
Interesting.
kind of think about different stories. I mean, we want to keep in this horror theme, like, and usually the really violent side of horror is what we're dealing with, so basically it ends up being a very specific scenario, like oh, I'm trying to think. Pitchfork impalement. That's very specific. We might have had some other impalement song earlier on, but pitchfork first time, pretty sure. I'll have to look through our lyrics,
Yeah.
but you know what I mean. Like it's kind of like we're being very specific. Like well, look at Violence, their first album. I remember they have a song called Serial Killer.
Mm.
Killer song, by the way, awesome song. But I'm thinking, well, hell, we couldn't do that. We've got like 20 songs about serial killers, but it has to be really specific about what each of them is doing and how it might be different from the other,
Yeah.
different perspective, maybe victim's perspective, one time killer's perspective, or just
Mm-hmm.
basic third person or whatever. So there's various different ways to approach doing things that are, I mean, we are repeating ourselves a bit, of course. So we have to kind of get really specific for it not to be overly repetitive. But yeah, we've had a lot of serial killer songs, a lot of zombie songs, a lot of songs where people are being captured, and having bad things done to them. It's all the bad stuff we sing about it or we have over the years. So that becomes tricky. Now, if we can switch to the music side of things, I actually think that's a little bit easier
Mm.
because that's just one of my favorite things is to sit down and start trying to write some new music.
Mm.
It's my favorite part at this point. Like I love the touring, I love recording, although that's the hardest part. Really, recording's the hardest part because you're under the microscope, but the creative part, sitting down and writing music is just so much fun. It's never a problem. If it ever is, like if I'm ever having a day where I'm just not feeling it, I'll just skip it and come back the next day. But
Yeah.
usually it flows pretty easily. And I think the other guys are probably like that too. And it's very helpful to have several guys who are really creative in the band and enjoy writing as well.
Yeah.
Because each of us write 3 or 4 songs musically and maybe 4 songs lyrically too. And Paul joins in on the lyrics and sometimes the music as well. So, yeah, it helps that we're a team that everybody likes making creative content. You know what I mean? Like we all like writing and expressing ourselves that way, and it's the fun part in many ways.
Yeah.
So music, I'm not really too worried about repeating too. Like on my side of it, like the way if I'm going to start with a song just with a blank slate, I'm like, okay, let's pick a tempo, pick a scale, and pick a time signature. And we'll go from there and see if anything good comes out. So I might say, let's go 7/8, because that's always a cool kind of proggish sounding thing. But then we'll make it kind of fast, but something fast enough where I can pick all the 16th notes, so like 170 BPM,
Mm-hmm.
and then what scale? Hungarian minor is always a good one, or some, whole tone scale. So those are, I'll kind of set some parameters and then just go with that and see how it works out. And then for the next song, I'll make sure I don't use any of those things. That way the next song sounds different. Maybe the next song will just be 4/4 and then faster and different scale. So and it's fun to give yourself a few boundaries to work within.
Yeah.
it can be overwhelming to just start out and be like, well, what do I do? So if you give yourself a few guidelines to work within, it can spur the creativity, I've found.
Yeah, it would be opposite for me. I would think that like the content lyrically, because you can pull from so many different, you know, actual real life experiences that happen, like with serial killers or any kind of like victim things or any horror things. Like you can pull from that, or like any, I feel like lyrically it's way easier. But again, that's why it's different between you and I. And I would think that writing a really fucking cohesive, dope song is musically is way harder than just fucking writing about the lyrics that go on top. But
yeah, and I mean, it's like you said earlier, though.
That's why you're doing. But that's why you're doing that, Alex, and that's why I'm not doing any of that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I mean, it helps. Like I said, it just helps to have a bunch of different people, and then if you do come up with a good idea for the lyrics, then it's like, okay, cool, I'm gonna go with this thing that I managed to think of. But yeah, it's a little harder, being on album 16. I mean, if you're really trying to keep it fresh, it's I feel like it's just a little bit harder for the lyrics than it is for the music.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that.